Man, I'm excited to have Cylas here.
Yeah.
We actually already tried this once. And we're both pretty new at this, and we had one of the cameras not even record and that kind of deal, but it's been a really cool learning process. I see that you're starting to get more into the video thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And
what's your motivation there?
Man, my biggest motivation with just the video content is I think obviously we're in like an education, technological like revolution.
Yeah.
Everything's going to the internet. Like you're buying groceries online. That to me, that was going to be one of the hardest things. I thought that would be difficult for people to figure out how to do. But now, groceries are coming right to your door. Food's coming right to your door. Everything's coming right to your door. So I think before we know it, people are going to go to the internet for everything. We already do a ton of stuff. But I think before we know it, people are actually going to go to the internet for all the resources they need, like buying houses, mortgages. They're going to do that before they ask a friend. And so I think building up that rapport now and just that knowledge from people that you are the person that is doing this in your industry the most frequent, like providing the most value, back.
Can I be honest with you, man? I really don't 100% know what my motivation is on it.
Okay.
Meaning that, like, I don't know why exactly I'm doing this in the long run. I just know I don't want to be on the wrong side of it. Like, I can't wake up one day and say, I want a bunch of social media brand equity. I can't wake up and do that. I have to have built that over time.
Yeah,
so I'm still not even sure how I'm going to leverage it.
Yeah.
I'm still not sure how I'm going to monetize it, if I'm going to try to monetize it down the road. I'm just trying to learn.
Yeah.
Like, that's probably one of my top deals.
Yeah.
I want to continue to learn what works, what doesn't. I feel, and I'd like to believe, that one day I'm going to have something real important to say. Mm-hmm. And I just want an audience to do that. And I got to start building that audience now. And I'm going to build that audience by, like, putting out content that I truly believe helps people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think that's the key piece is, like, we've made mistakes in our businesses in ways. And even if, like, your audience is 5 people and you can help one person not make that same mistake, like, you've done what this is essentially meant to do, like to keep people from having to go through some of the turmoil and struggles that we've gone through. And then hopefully you build it to a place where you can help 20 people, not go through those same things. Yeah,
absolutely. So Cylas has some great info from us. I've been watching kind of his career from afar. He's a really young guy, actually fairly young in the industry compared to your average age of a realtor, average time on the market. Yeah. And I've seen him already have some success. He's already ahead of the curve. I mean, I've seen you just get ahead and just work hard and get there. And I want to get into that with you. I think you got some great information for buyers. I think you have some great information for people wanting to get in the market. But before we get that, like, what makes you who you are? Like, why do you think you're the person you are? Why do you think that you are motivated? Like, what have you been through that you're like, this is why I am who I am?
Yeah. Well, first, thanks for those compliments, because that's, like you said, I think the most important thing you said, just like hard work, and like one day you pop up and you're like, oh wow, that hard work has paid off. Yeah. Like you don't feel like you're gaining that traction until one day you just kind of like sit back and appreciate like what you've gone through and what's going on. Just be like, wow, I'm happy with this.
Sure.
I'm thankful for it. So, for me, just everything that I do and am doing is to get to a place of comfort for like my family, friends, and I've been redefining what my goals are. And I used to tell people, like, I want this many houses or this much cash flow a month or, this much in an account. And that's actually not what my goals are. That's like the vehicle. I've been redefining it as like my vehicle and destination. And my destination in life is to be at a place of comfort that if I saw a need in someone else, I could take care of that and it would not affect my family at all. Which means that, like, if I see someone that single mom, a single parent, dad, either one, car breaks down and they need a new car, like, I can be a person that can help them, and that doesn't take away from helping my family, my parents, my kids. That's really my main driver.
Well, now that's the good stuff. Okay. That's the good stuff. Like, I rarely meet somebody that has success, that is working hard, that is motivated, that didn't go through some crap. that didn't go through some tough times, that didn't get awakened somehow, some way. I have my own story about it. What was that moment for you? Was there a season in your life that you're like, the buck stops here, this is going to turn around, or something that just awakened you?
Yeah, but I watched my parents work really, really hard their entire lives, and did everything they could to set my sister and myself up for success. Like, they weren't worried about their own success. Like, they, you know, if they had a want or need, like, they were putting, you know, processes in place to set myself and my sister up for success. And so I watched them my whole life just put off their own wants and needs in order to provide for us. And so I think number one, it's like that piece where, you know, they've done so much hard work. Like, you want to honor that, and you want to be able to take care of them at some point in life. And, you know, that my mom had me when she was 17. My dad was, you know, I'm actually adopted by my dad, which, you know, like, so my mom had me. My biological father kind of split after that. My mom was all on her own with me at 17. Thankfully, I had an incredible great grandma that helped take care of us, like, through that time, and, like, watched me a ton while my mom worked. And then later on, my mom met who I call my dad, but actually adopted me. He was an incredible guy from Harlem, New York. You know, born into a family that had some tough times, went to the military to kind of get out of that and set himself up better. And so my whole life, I watched them just work their butts off, you know, like, to get by and to provide, like, everything for us. So,
how old were you when your dad adopted you, or when he came into your life?
Yeah, I was probably like 2 or 2.5. So it was very young.
So
like,
that's the only dad you've ever known.
Yeah, it's my dad. But, like, when, you know, when I talk about that stuff, like, my mom, like, she was all on her own for, like, a couple of years. Yeah. And so, like, I have no void in my life, like, from that.
Sure.
Because my dad is, like, my dad and my mom both, like, just the most incredible, giving, loving people, like, you've ever met.
So your stepdad stepped up to the plate.
Yeah.
Hard.
Yeah, for sure. And it's so funny. Like, I never even think of, like, the word stepdad unless I'm, like, having conversations like this, because this is like
sure.
He adopted me. I have his last name. Like, I have his last name tattooed on my back. Like,
that's awesome.
Because to me, that was, like, a form of respect. Like, you know, like, no matter what, like, you're my dad. You know, like, this is, like, I've got that name tattooed, Brooks, on my back, because, like, that's who I am. You know.
That's amazing, man. Yeah. Did you ever have to, like, unpack or process the whole? And if any of these questions are uncomfortable for
dude,
you,
dude, nothing's uncomfortable. Okay, I guarantee someone else will get more uncomfortable before I get uncomfortable.
Man, I love finding out, like, why people are who they are and that kind of thing. Yeah. And I think a lot of times it stems from early on.
Yeah.
What, like, have you ever had to process or unpack the whole biological dad being gone? Have you met him?
I have not. I've never met him, and I really
never had the desire to.
I didn't. So there was a time, like, so I have lupus, which is, like, an autoimmune disease, and can, like, mess up some of your organ function and stuff like that. So, like, in high school, like, one time I was actually, he had contacted my mom, was, like, just, like, begging to meet me. Like, I want to meet him. Like, let's set up a time. And I was honestly, I was like, nah, man, like, I don't have anything missing. Like, I've got my dad. Like
things could only get worse.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's exactly how I felt. I was like, there's just no reason for me to, like, I have no voids. Also, like, just out of respect for my dad, like, I was just trying to put myself in this situation. Like, I come in, take care of you your whole life. Like, if you still want to meet your dad, like, but my dad was the most incredible. He's like, dude, you need to meet him. Like, you don't ever want to go back and regret not doing that. And I was like, nah, man. Dude, nah. I'm like 16 at this time. So I'm like, you know, teenager, you're like, nah, dude, I'll do my own thing.
Yeah.
So crazy story, everything. I ended up having to go to Kansas City to be in a hospital because I was having, like, really poor kidney function due to that, like, disease I had. Well, it turns out that my real dad was, like, some type of administrator. He, like, gone on to get his doctorate degree and stuff like that, and, like, was some type of administrator, like, at a you know, place there.
In KC.
In KC, yeah. So, like, there was
at the hospital you were at?
Yeah, at the hospital I had to go to, because I was the only, like, pediatric doctor was at that hospital. That's the closest one that would take care of the kind of stuff.
You can't write that up.
It's crazy.
It's a God thing.
So, man, like, we set up this whole thing. Like, my parents convinced me, like, meet him, like, just so you don't have regrets later.
So wait a minute, just a little. Does he know you're there at this point, or do you know he's there?
Yeah, we both know, and it was like
your mom had communicated to him, hey, your son's sick,
like,
or whatever.
Because he's like, hey, like, I want to meet him. And then it's like, okay, well, we are actually going to be there.
Okay, gotcha.
So set up a time, place. We go there, and, like, the classic story, just like ghost us. Like
No.
no message back, nothing. And like, I mean, I'm just like fuming. My blood's boiling because
so you
like,
already became vulnerable and said, okay, fine, I'll do this. And then the guy goes,
yeah. And I'm like, I mean, dude, my blood, like, and at that point I kind of had like a little bit of a temper. And so I was just like, he better not show up now. Like I was like 16, 17.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm like, dude, he better not show up.
You're like
now.
that Will Smith scene or whatever.
So, you know, I just, and, you know, from there that like killed all desire, like moving forward. I didn't have a desire like in the first place. And I came open to it and thought, okay, like maybe there's something here that would be valuable at some point in life. And then from there, I'm like, nah,
you're good.
I'm out. Like I don't have any desire.
That's great.
You know?
Well, that's good though. I mean, I think that was a lot of closure there.
Yeah.
I don't think you're left wondering anything.
No, for sure.
So I think maybe that moment was supposed to happen for you.
Yeah, you know, everything's supposed to, you know, it all comes around.
There's silver lining in everything.
Yeah, and everything, and you know, yeah.
So your dad, Mr. Brooks, sounds like an amazing guy.
Oh, incredible.
Tell me a couple of things that you learned from him. I heard a podcast the other day that most is caught, not taught, which means that like we can all give advice to whoever we want and stuff, but until we start setting that example, one of the first things you mentioned was that the reason you're motivated is because of what your parents did for you. Like I want to dive in a little bit more specifically. What are some areas that and to honor Mr. Brooks, what are some areas that you're like, man, this is the kind of guy he was?
You were just talking about my dad, like, so he just never complained about anything. Like he would work long hours. Like, I mean, you know, open a store. I mean, and we moved to Bartlesville because that's an area that felt like they wanted to raise my sister and I more. So like my dad still worked in Tulsa. So
and
like,
your sister's biological to you? Fully, or is that his daughter?
No, fully. That's his daughter. Right. Yeah. So it is crazy again. Like that's just my sister. You know, like this.
But she has the same father as you.
No.
He's her father.
He's her
okay.
Father,
Gotcha.
Same mom. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And you know, like, but you would never know the difference. We're 6 years difference, and we were like the best of friends in our whole life. We have, and it's never nothing like that. Like our family never really feels like a blended family or a mixed family. Like I never saw a difference in the way he treated me and my sister, which is another incredible piece. But like, I mean, he would drive an hour to work to open a store at 5 a.m. and he may get off at 6, drive an hour home at 7, and maybe have a band concert at 8. He's there, like, you know, like just did what he had to do anytime it needed to be done.
Never once made it feel like a burden that he was raising you as not his biological.
Man, I cannot imagine. It's made me wonder myself, like at times, like if I had adopted a child, like would I have, like, you know, and especially having like my own daughter.
Would you favor your own?
Right. It makes you like, man, I couldn't, and I've never once had an inclination of that at all. Like nothing. Yeah. And that's incredible. And it's just
that's
like,
so selfless, you know, man, it's just a selfless act.
Dude, it's the craziest thing. I mean, I've actually dated like, you know, ladies with children before and stuff like that. And, you know, great, you know, obviously love little kids. Kids are the most like pure thing on earth. But then like having my own child now, I'm like the love, the outpouring, the gushing I have for my own like baby girl. You're like, man, is it possible really to find that to meet another child and have that same exact, but like
he did.
He did. I mean, he'll tell me like, he's like, dude, you were the, like, you changed my life. You're like the best thing that like
he's looking at it the other, isn't that crazy? He looked at it the opposite. Instead of saying I have to take care of he's saying thank you.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. It's absolutely incredible.
That's awesome. Do you, like, some people are like, you know, they're motivated by saying, I'm going to give my kids a better life than I had. Mm-hmm. This is, you know, whatever. But I think I feel the same as you. My father was an amazing father. My mom definitely feel super blessed in that area. Do you feel like motivated to be that father he was? Do you feel motivated?
For sure.
You know, I don't think, I mean, he set the bar super high. So I would even say that you're like, hey, if I just live up to that,
exactly,
I'm good.
If I could get even anywhere close, like, to my dad, I'd be on cloud 9. Like, I mean, patient, kind, soft-spoken, like, respectful. I mean, taught me, you know, in his military, like, you know, yes, sir, no, sir.
Oh, he's military.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. He was a drill sergeant in the military, and you would think, like, that would lead to, like, aggression and, like, yelling. Like, never.
Yeah,
like, never. It was all, like...
He was kind,
calm, set you aside, like, do you know what you did wrong? Why do we not do this? Like, as a man, like, this is we need to be able to control ourselves, and like it's crazy. And his father, was not really around for him.
Yeah.
So for someone that kind of did a lot of self-learning on the job, it blows my mind, like how incredible of a father he was to like. And he tells me like, a lot of this he learned from ways he didn't want. Like he learned from things his dad did that he didn't want to be like, the opposite, and it's just like to go from that, really not have that standard or figure or information.
Yeah.
Turn completely around and do like such an incredible job. It's just like, I think it's also just a testament to him as a person.
Isn't that crazy? Anything that happens to us, we have a choice. Mm-hmm. Like he had a choice.
Yeah.
He didn't have that life. He got treated the way he shouldn't have been treated potentially.
Yeah.
And he had the choice to either use that as a crutch or use that as a motivator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right. And
absolutely.
That's pretty neat that he broke that cycle.
Yeah.
Now he created generations of you, now your son.
Yeah.
Son, right?
Daughter.
Now your children are going to pass that on to theirs, and that's crazy how that's broken by somebody making that choice.
Right.
That you don't have to fall into line.
Right.
In that.
Yeah.
It's amazing, man. I appreciate you sharing all that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like the difficult choice. That's something that I've been like keeping in my head recently, is like to make the tough choice. It's like I feel like all the stuff I'm doing, like there's an easy choice and there's a tough choice.
Yeah.
And the tough choice is the one that's gonna make me better. Like pop versus water, work out versus sitting and watch TV. Like the easy one is never the one that really like grows you in a better way.
Man, I totally agree. And a lot of times, the fact that it's a trivial moment, like 1 second type of choice makes you trivialize it enough that you're like, it doesn't matter, but they add up.
Yeah,
those little tiny choices add up over time. They compound and compound.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, man. I think that answers my question about who you are, man. I like that. I'm sure there's a whole nother conversation about your mother too.
And my mother, we gotta do another one. Shout out to my mom. Mom, I love you. We'll get some info on you sometime.
100%.
Important.
100%. It's just that you're in a unique situation with your dad where he wasn't your biological, and I know there's a ton there. And as men, there's so much that we learn from our dads, that we take from our dads, good or bad. And so I just think that was something that was important to unpack for people to get to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's switch gears here and go back to the business. What is it about the business that got you into it? And then we can kind of transition into what advice you have for people that are looking to buy.
Yeah. So what got me into real estate is I just really always had this idea in my head that I would own real estate at some point in time. Like I helped my grandpa on my mom's side with some of his rental properties and renovating homes and some things like that. I enjoyed it. I love working with my hands and seeing a product from it. And then I always, for some reason, my dad would tell me too that I think his dad was in some form of real estate or development, working for a company. And it's like both sides always told me like real estate was kind of like that way to go. Like that's where you put your money in the end. And so I just always had an interest in that. And then I got out of college. I got a nursing degree first, and I got out of college, had a lot of extra time, and watched a lot of real estate shows, and just
a lot of HGTV.
A lot of HGTV, man. Yeah. So it continued to spark that interest, and I had free time, so I got my real estate license.
Yeah. Did you find out real quick that the teacher and the plumber can't buy the $700,000 house?
Yeah, absolutely. One show I watched it was on Bravo, and it was like $1 Million Listing or something like that. Yeah. And dude, I was like seeing these commissions, and my eyes were just like lighting up. I'm like, oh my gosh, that guy made $200,000 on
one deal.
Yeah. So when I got to the Oklahoma market selling homes, I had a little bit of awakening of that. You don't get 200K commissions.
No, we got to work a little bit harder. And so, so you dipped your toe in the water and said, okay, I'm going to get licensed. I'm going to start doing it on the side while I keep my current main hustle.
Yes.
Right?
Correct.
And I think that's an area that I think you did right. I think there's too many people that are caught up in this rhetoric of like, follow your dreams, follow this stuff, that they forget that there is work to do before you get to that point, right? Yeah. And so you kept that job because you needed to have income, and little by little transitioned. Tell me a little bit about when it was fully like, you know what, I'm good. Why was that decision made? What was going through your head? What caused that to be made?
Yeah, and just to touch on that, like it was a long process, man. It was like we're in that like jump out culture of like you found a new something you like quit your job today and leave. And it's like that's scary. That's not incredible information to give people. There's a lot of people that are not ready for that step. For me, so I got out of college, I'm 21 years old. I've got 4 days off a week as a nurse. So I get my license. I'm like, I'm going to start selling real estate. So I get a mentor. I start. And I think that first year, man, I sold like one house, like maybe 130, like $130,000 house. So like
this is harder than it looked.
I'm on a 50-50 split. So I'm making like, a couple $1,000s, something like that. So, I basically almost paid my fees.
Bucks,
Almost paid my fees that I paid to get the license. I went back to nursing. I actually went as far as like getting halfway through a doctorate program to get my nurse practitioner degree. And I just realized I was more passionate about real estate than I was about the medical field. And I saw this like vision of me being in the medical field for 40 years or 45 years. And I was like, no, I can't do that. So that's where it came to like, I'm making a good living. I'm paying stuff off. I'm getting ahead in life. And it just wasn't time for me to jump straight out and go to commissions. So as I was building my business, selling some homes, learning, I kept that steady job, and I worked nights and I worked 3 days a week. So I worked 12-hour shifts. That's full time as a nurse. So I had a lot of daytime availability, which is when majority of, real estate goes on. So, over the next probably 2 or 3 years, I just continue to build my book of business, grow a little bit more every year.
Yeah.
Like my, first year after that, I, probably made 15,000, 20,000, then grew quite
little
a bit
by
more.
little.
Yeah.
And then eventually, when's the moment you let go?
It was a long time. It's hard because you think about that. You're like, okay, finally I matched my nursing pay with real estate. But that time, now I'm making, now I've got two incomes. I've got double the income. So then I had to take a 50% cut to get back. So, I stepped my toe out. I did some commercial construction, or I did some project management for a commercial construction company for a little bit. So that kind of commission just scared the heck out of me, man, honestly. Like not having, like, even when you budget, like how do you set a budget
when you don't know what's coming?
And you don't have that much say back. So, finally I went out of the medical field, which helped because that was such a steady, I knew I always have a job doing that. Went to the commercial construction side while doing real estate. And then finally I just was like, man, if I was applying as much time and energy as I was, like fully to real estate as I am, splitting it up, I know I can do this. And so I did it, jumped out. That was like, it was very scary. So I quit my nursing job like maybe February 2020.
Okay.
And then a pandemic hit. And so like literally like 2 weeks after I quit my job, like they're like, don't leave your house unless you're a medical worker. I'm like, I'm not a medical worker anymore. Like now I don't know how to make money, like
you didn't have to worry about getting vaccinated or not though at the hospital.
Yeah, that's correct. But I actually had signed up for a contract to go to New York and be a nurse because I'm like, I just quit my job. I have no pay coming in because they're like, at that time they didn't want you showing houses. They wanted you in your house. I'm like, I had a quadplex under contract that I let go of. I was reeling everything in. So
what? How do you feel about it now?
Now I have.
You have an emergency fund. You know what your survival number is every month. Guys, this is amazing advice for homeowners out there, buyers out there. This is what I see. Maybe less than 5%. Maybe I would say between 5 and 10% of consumers that I see have a budget, know what their survival number is. I've done a budget with so many clients, and they're just always like, what?
Yeah.
Like, that's how much I could save, or that's how much I could have left over.
Yeah.
Or man, we're upside down.
For sure.
And I've even gone through it with people. People want a $300,000 house, and I show them, I'm like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Like, this is why you don't want a $300,000 house. You're going to be upside down, and your quality of life is going to go way down. Yeah. So that if you took that away from this right now, that if you just are smart with your money, you have a budget, you know exactly how much you have outgoing every single month to live the quality of life that you want to live, and you make decisions based on that. If you took that from this entire conversation, you took gold.
That's great by itself. Yeah. Because, this, like, I know, like, I made a post about this the other day. You could make $300,000 a year, and if you spent $299, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
You're exactly right.
And I like speaking on this because we're in the business of education. Honestly, I feel like number one is our goal. And like when someone comes to me and they haven't started the pre-approval process, I ask them to try to figure out in their budget what would be a comfortable number for them to pay per month, and then come to you and say, okay, I want to hit this target.
Yeah.
Where does that mean I'm pre-approved for? What does that get me?
What house does that get me?
And let's work it backwards like that, not just like,
this is a pretty
jump
house.
in and see like, okay, can I hit this mark? Can I get a 350? Well, like, okay, does 350 work for you? Because on my end, I don't want them looking at 350 and then have to buy a 250, because you're not getting a 350 house for 250. It makes it so much harder.
Once you see a 350, you're not gonna like 250.
You're not gonna
anymore.
like 250. But if you went from 150 and now you can get 200 comfortably, you're like, this is great. Now I've got a tiled shower in my master.
Yeah, and here's my little plug. That's why it's so important to go to a lender first.
Mm-hmm.
You go to the lender first, you get pre-approved, you know what you're looking at, and you know what your max is, and you don't go over that max, no matter what, right? And I think that's so important. And I think ultimately, I was going to ask you advice for buyers. I was going to ask you advice for people getting in the business, and I think that's the advice.
Yeah.
The advice is be smart, budget, know where your numbers are, how many months can you go? If you're in the business, how many months can you go with no commission or with little commission? If you're a buyer, what payment can you actually pay and live a comfortable life? I would say that's the biggest takeaway from this.
I mean, it's with everything. You got to know what you have and know where you're going,
and make decisions based on that.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's. I like this. Like, say this stuff like this. You're taking emotion out of it.
Yeah,
and that's when we make emotion. When we make decisions through emotion, we make bad decisions.
Right.
Like we have to see. I mean, investing, business, lenders, realtors, every single person. If you have a buy box or a certain criteria you need to stick to, when you stick to it, you're gonna be better than like, oh, I love this.
Yeah,
oh, this is beautiful.
It's beautiful now, but you're gonna hate it in a few months. So, last question here, just for the sake of time here. There's a lot of rhetoric out there about following your passion, about doing what you love, following your passion. Yeah. But I've heard a couple people say lately, and this has really hit home with me, and it's like, who cares about your passion? What's your gift?
That's good.
That if you follow your gift, even the Bible says that you're going to be put in front of great men and great opportunities, right?
Yeah.
What would you say? And you can answer, I don't know, Alfredo. Let's talk about it next time, whatever. Yeah. But if you can take a moment and think about it, what would you say your gift is? Yeah,
this is actually a pretty easy one for me, but I think it's just like interactions and like interpersonal relationships. I'm a relationship builder. I love people. I love talking to people. And, I mean, like we talked about, like on the education aspect of this stuff, like that feeds me. I get more joy getting someone in a house that they love and knowing they're in a good place, and that when it's time for them and they want to upgrade, that they're not going to be in a bad place at the end. So I get more joy when, like, if I have to take a problem to someone, because you can't avoid all problems.
Right.
I'm like, hey, I've got to talk to you about something. I've got solutions for it already, so don't freak out. Here's the situation we have, and here's our options of how do we fix this, and like, because what's really happening is you're comforting those people. Like you're taking care of that person as a person.
Yeah.
Because like if I just say, oh my gosh, we just found out this happened in inspections. I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna think about some stuff and let you know. Like I'm gonna find that out, and I'm gonna figure out some solutions first, because if I can head that off for them to start with, like their day moves along about how it needs to go. They don't have, it's not crippling their entire day. Like they're comforted. Like I just.
So if I can
take care of people,
if I can translate that, I would say that your gift is taking the burden off of people.
Yeah,
lifting burdens, carrying people's burden for them.
Yeah,
like you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, hey, this is an area, like real estate. This is an area you're not familiar. I am.
Yeah,
I have your best interest in mind. Let me do the heavy lifting for you.
Yep. That's exactly right. So I've been doing some client testimonials, and that's something that's a reoccurring thing, is like people feel like they didn't have to work through that process.
Yeah.
Because they trusted me as a person, that I'm not going to give them a decision I wouldn't make for my own family.
Right.
And I think I convey that to people, that like I'm here to treat you like family, and if I wouldn't tell my sister to do this, I'm not going to tell you to do it.
Yeah.
Type thing.
No, I feel that that's you, and I relate to that a lot as well too, of like trying to like really do this work for them. It seems like when you put somebody else first, or you're doing it for somebody, there's just more motivation to do it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Man, I feel like it's been heavy on me. Can
Yeah.
can we get one of those? Can we get one of those questions
Yeah.
for you? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, is your gift similar, or do you have something different than that?
I'll tell you a little story.
Yeah.
So my father grew up in a very rural part of Mexico. Okay. And this is the northern part of Mexico. It's like desert up there. Okay. So the ground is like dry. And if you dig an inch, you find a rock. And if you dig two, you find two.
Okay.
You know, it's just super hard.
Yeah.
And it's so remote that, well, let me back up. My grandmother lived her whole life in this little tiny remote town in Mexico. And when she passed, there's only a little cemetery up in like 2-3 miles into the woods, basically, that you have to take her. And there's not like tractors, there's not backhoes and anything. So tradition is that the family of whoever passed, and my grandmother was somebody that was very important to us, very strong, conviction, confident lady, that we took a lot of motivation and energy from. And we had the tradition was that all the men went and they dug the grave. Okay. So when my grandmother died, I was 11 years old, about the age of my oldest son right now. And so, you know, yay tall.
Yeah.
And so I go out there with all the men, and first, you know, my dad and his brothers are digging and digging. And at one point, the hole is supposed to be 6. It's probably 4 feet deep at this point. My dad hands me the shovel. I remember grabbing that shovel and getting down in there and starting to dig. Yeah. And digging and digging and digging. And like, I felt like nobody could stop me. Like I was never either I was going to finish this hole or that shovel was going to break.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Finally, my dad takes it away from me and he says, hey, let somebody else go. But I just remember having like an unlimited amount of energy down there digging that grave for my grandmother because she was so important to me. And I was doing this for her.
Yeah.
Now, the reason that was a big lesson for me in my life is that normally everybody hates digging a hole. I've had to dig a hole in my backyard for plumbing issues or whatever, and it's the worst. Like I hate digging a hole. It's a lot of hard work. But because I had to dig it for her and for my dad to see that I was a man, for you know, for all the things she did for me, it was easy work. Yeah. And that's how I feel that along the same lines as you, is that like I feel that when I'm doing things for others, it's an easy burden. It's light. Yeah. And I love it. Man. And I love growing people. I love building people up.
That's incredible.
You know, I love empowering people because it's light.
Yeah. What a incredible like tactile experience. Like so much of this stuff is metaphoric, but yours is like tactile. You probably remember your hands hurting.
Dude, I remember
like
everything. I remember the transfer of the shovel. It was so weird. Like he handed me that shovel and it was like, like energy filled me, like strength filled me. Like I was only 11 years old. Think about it. I'm down here. The grave's actually taller than me already. Yeah. And I'm in this hole and like, I'm like,
it's going to town.
This shovel's going to have to break before I stop.
That's incredible.
Anyways, man, I really enjoy. Yeah, absolutely. I enjoy having you here with me. I'm sure we'll have another one.
Yes, absolutely.
And
appreciate the time.
Anything else, man, you just let us know.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Good seeing you.
Bye.